Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So today I want to talk about money. It's obviously something that is really important to how we live our lives. Let's just face it. If you don't have money, you're gonna have a really difficult time, and just not money, but a good amount of money. Period. You're gonna have a really difficult time. But what I also want to talk about is sometimes people find themselves in really tricky financial situations. Sometimes, hey, you just were not born into a family where you had means, or and not even a lot of means, or just had a family structure, a dynamic where maybe your parents were able to help set you up financially, or just able to teach you certain things when it comes to money. And a lot of times, a lot of people are just illiterate to when it comes to finances, and that causes a lot of problems as they, start working and how they spend. Some people have never even thought about budgeting. I mean, all that sort of stuff, and then you find yourself, you have a job. Maybe you're making 13, $14 an hour or whatever the case is, but you also have thousands of dollars in credit card debt. You have a car note, and you got kids. I mean, and you just find yourself in a really difficult situation. So what I'm going to do today is excuse me, what I'm going to do is kind of talk about when you find yourself in that situation, how do you get out of it? Let me tell you, personally, I know because I have been there. I know what it's like to have all that debt and stuff stacked up against you, to not know how you're going to dig yourself out of a hole, to start off from behind the eight ball, really, right? As I said, you're not coming from wealth or anything like that. So, how do you move yourself from a position where you are just drop dead broke, you're struggling financially, and things are really difficult? First, I'm going to say is, excuse me, first, I'm going to say is, it's not going to be easy, right? It is not going to be easy, and it is going to take time, right? It is not going to be easy, and it is going to take time. I mean, unless you win some kind of money, some kind of lottery or something like that, it is going to take time. It's just not going to be easy to be able to dig yourself out of debt, especially depending on how much debt that you're in. So, as I've mentioned before in a couple other videos, look, I moved to the US with about 200 bucks, right? And so I was already behind to pay for college. And then obviously debt just kept mounting and mounting and mounting and mounting and mounting. Now, obviously, I had a lot of scholarships, right? So I'm not going to lie, I had a lot of academic scholarships and a couple other little scholarships here and there, but primarily a lot of academic scholarships that covered significant amount of my college tuition for all of my educational pursuits, right? So I was blessed that I was able to get a lot of academic scholarships to be able to help me out financially. But even what was left over was a challenge, all right? So at the end of the day, I found myself, one of those people where you graduate from college and you just had a lot of debt, a lot of expenses. So, what do you do? How do you get yourself out of a situation like that? Well, one of the first things is, look, if you're currently in debt, one of the things you've got to do is you got to be realistic. And you've got to look, and if you don't budget, you have to start budgeting. So that's like one of the first things you got to do is that you have to start budgeting. But look at all of the debt that you have and look at the income that is coming in, right? You've got to do a simple spreadsheet, balance sheet, right? For your income and your debt. How much are you paying a month for all your debts, whether it's your car notes, your whatever the case is? How much are you bringing in? And then look at that deficit. Where is that deficit? Are you in the positive, right? Or are you in the negative when you break that down? And then the next thing you've got to do is you have some tough decisions to make. You have some tough decisions to make. Do you really need cable TV if you have cable TV? I'm just saying you've got some tough decisions to make. That's stuff that I didn't even mess with that, right? I didn't even mess with that. Like, what do you need? I needed the internet because And then once you have the internet, you have access to YouTube, and a lot of things you can watch, right? But I made that sacrifices. I didn't need TV. So when I first started like making at I guess you could say a decent amount of money, one of the things I didn't run off to do was to get cable TV or whatever the case is, right? I didn't need it, right? You find other ways to kill your time, so to speak, for entertainment, whatever is reading or all sorts of stuff. But then if you have the internet, at least, because so many things we do these days, you got to have the internet, right? So in terms of paying your bills online and all that sort of stuff, so you need internet. But you could also know how can you use that also as a source of entertainment. As I said, there's YouTube, there's stuff you can watch for free on YouTube, and you can find all forms of entertainment there. So you got to make some tough decisions. I know sometimes people would say, well, I want to be debt free, but I want my TV and I want my this and I want my this. Well, as I said, you got to be realistic and you got to make some tough choices. Do you want to be debt free or do you want to watch cable? I mean, like, the choice is yours, right? I can understand you having to have the car and having to have a car note. I've been there as well, right? So you have to have a car because you got to get to work depending on where you live. Now, if you live in New York City or, places like that, Chicago and certain places, and you can get on a bus and hop on a train, the East Coast, USA, if you live in Paris, if you live in London and stuff like, you can move around to Toronto and places like that, then you could avoid going to a car because a lot of times you can get to work, right, by using other means. But if you're in some other places in the world or in some states in the US, then you probably need a car. So do you need your car more than you need cable, right? And that's one of those decisions that you got to make. It's going to be tough decisions, right? So you look at how much you're making and how much you're spending. And then you've got to go through and see what can I take away. So I started with cable because I just don't think you need it, but maybe you could make a case for that. Again, be realistic. What can you remove? Like, what do you really not need? Because a lot of the stuff that we spend on is because what we want. So, but what do you not need that you could erase from that? And that's a process that it's tough, maybe tougher for some people, but that's a process that you got to do. You got to remove the stuff that you absolutely don't need. All right. Then you got to keep on being more realistic and looking at it. What else, besides removing the stuff that you need and cutting the things that you don't need, is it possible for you to actually find a way to increase your income, right? Is it possible to take on more hours at your job, right? And I know that is probably going to compromise how much time you can spend at home or whatever the situation is. But that's something I had to do. I had to get two jobs, right? Because one job was just not enough. It was just to keep up with the current bills, but to also get rid of the old stuff that's hanging down on your credit and really kind of holding you back as you want to do other things moving forward. So I had to get multiple jobs, and that might be something you have to do. And a conversation you probably have to have if you're in a relationship, a conversation you have to have with your partner. So we got all this debt. What are we gonna do, right? Do we both get multiple jobs, or do one of us get multiple jobs, or do you just increase, if you can, right, the number of hours that you work at your current job? Can you get some overtime? That's something I did as well, right? You get some overtime and you take the overtime money and then you direct it towards cutting off your debt. Now, as when you're trying to get out of this situation, you're not doing anything to add debt, right? So you're not doing anything to add debt. You're trying to get out of debt. So make sure you're not trying to bring in anything unless it's absolutely necessary, right? You're not bringing in anything that is going to increase your debt. But what you're actually going to do is you're looking to eliminate current debts, right? But not to increase any kind of future debts. You kind of have to look at that, or you got to be really disciplined when you're doing this. So see if you can find a job, another job. You might have to do it. I had to do it. Increase your hours at one of your jobs or both. I had to do it as well. Work overtime, and then direct that money. Now, my thing is, now as you're looking to pay stuff off, right? I believe in picking the smallest thing first. So let's say you got, I don't know, you got like 4 credit cards, you got the car, you got something else in your credit, or whatever the case is. But you got one for like $300 or $400. And the reason why I say you go with the smallest one first, you knock that one out first, is the feel good effect. Okay, because you got to stay positive throughout this process. As you see, you're not able to just kind of take your money and do whatever you want with it. Your money is now paying off debts, which is good because you're actually setting yourself up for a better future by doing this, right? But I say you pick the smallest thing first and pay that off. So you got one for $300, $400, $500 or whatever. That's the smallest one. Pay that one off first. Run a line through that. It's a feel good thing. A lot of times, because you need to stay positive when you're going through stuff like this. It's so easy to just kind of get down on yourself and, it's stressing me out. I can't spend my money the way I want to spend my money, and all the cases. Remember, you got yourself in this situation you're trying to get out. Pay the smallest thing off first, and then work your way up. Work your way up. The next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing, and then the next thing. Keep in mind that this is going to take time. It took me years, right? This is going to take time. And you got to be so just frugal, right? This is going to take time. It is not going to happen overnight. So patience and discipline is going to be absolutely key. Another thing and this is not something I ever did because I'm telling you, I never had money to do this. When I was going through college and in the first several years that I lived in the US, I didn't really eat out. That's not something I had money to do. But one of the things that I've always advised people to do is you've got to watch how you're just eating out, because you're having a couple problems when you eat out. One, a lot of times the food is not, it tastes good, but as far as for your health purposes, you're probably consuming way too many calories or whatever the case is, and you can control your diet a whole lot better when you're cooking at home, when you're doing your own thing. And not only that, it saves you money, right? So the next thing you want to do is you got to watch how you're eating out. Maybe you can treat yourself every now and then. I think it's okay if you treat yourself every now and then, but you also want to watch the way that you're spending your money eating out. It's so much more cost effective for you to be able to cook at home and to be able to save money instead of just spending your money out just all places. Just think about it, right? If you spending, well, I've seen people spend easily $30 a day eating out, sometimes 20 something dollars a day, and you add that up, and then you add that up over the month, and then you look at how many good groceries, by the way, right? Healthy grocery stuff that you could buy for that kind of money. And a lot of times that's on top of the money that some people buy anyway. So that's another tough decision that you got to make. Some people just love to eat out. Well, you got to cut that out, right? You got to cut that out. You've got to be able to say, okay, this is my plan. This is what I'm trying to do. And so I'm going to make this sacrifice. Look, all of what I'm talking about here it works for people who really want to do it. Like, you really got to want to do it. You want to have a good credit score. For people who really want a good credit score. For people who really don't want to sleep under the thought of financial stress. And money brings a lot of stress. The people who are trying to make the sacrifice now and work the extra hours, the extra job, or whatever the case is for the next year or two, so they could rid themselves of this debt and they could actually be able to do some of the things that they want, save for a vacation, do that sort of stuff. This is, if you're a complainer and you're this and yeah, but I still want something, then it's probably not going to work for you because it's a sacrifice. It's not easy. Right? It's not easy, but it is possible to dig yourself out. And you see the stories too of people who've done it. You see the stories of people who've been able to overcome just a mountain of debt that they accumulated over a period of time. It is going to take time. It's not an overnight situation. Another thing you could probably think of is maybe you can change your job, right? And find something that pays you a little bit more. All right. And then again, but when you start getting paid more, do not take that money and start doing just random stuff with it. The extra that making could go towards, maybe you can put it towards savings or split it in half, put it towards savings and then direct it towards the rest towards paying off your debt. Another thing that usually comes up is, well, when I'm paying off all these debts, do I still save? right? I'm paying off these debts. Do I still save? I still think you got to save something, but dedicate most of your money that you can, right? Dedicate more of your money towards paying off the debt, but still save something. So, in other words, if you're able, when you itemize your list here in terms of your debts, your expenses, and then your income, after you do that itemization and you realize, okay, I'm able to cut out certain things and I'm able to put $400 towards debt, right? I think you put $300 towards the debt, because the sooner you get rid of the debt, the better your credit gets and all that sort of stuff, and the less of your money is going to interest, because interest sucks up a lot of our money. But I still think you put away at least $100 a month. It might not seem as a lot, because what happens is if something happens 7 or 8, 9 months into this new financial routine that you have, you're the car, alternator, whatever the case, something comes up and you need four, five, $600, $700. You don't have to go back to credit or whatever the case is. You've been saving a little bit of money and you can pull it from that now, right? It doesn't set you back with all the progress that you've made on the other end, which is paying off your credit cards or all that sort of stuff. So still save a little something, but dedicate most of your money towards paying off the debt. But you got to save, and money adds up. $100 here, $200 here, whatever the case is, it's adding up, it's adding up, it's adding up, it's adding up. That if something comes up, you're not double dipping in the progress that you're already making, right? So that's another thing. I think it's really something else. It's something that I did, right? And you've got to be able to really, again, stay focused on doing stuff like that. That's how you're really gonna get out of your debt. Now, there's gonna be a part 2 to this. I feel like I've gone on for a very long time because it's something I love to talk about. It's an experience that I've had. Look, I know when you grow up poor and you're trying to do stuff with your life, and sometimes stuff happens and you get set back and you find yourself in a hole and you're like, how do I get out of all this situation? It takes discipline. It took tremendous discipline for me to be able to get through that and just to get where I am with my life today. Discipline. That's one thing about me, right? Discipline. You've got to stick to it and believe it. Believe that you could do it, right? So just take that into consideration for now, the stuff that I shared with you. There's going to be a part 2 to this because I feel like a lot of times people don't know how to talk about money, and I really feel like financial class is something that should be taught in college as well. But hey, and it's just exposing people to financial literacy, right? It's a big thing because money plays such a huge role in our lives, right? Money plays such a huge role in our lives. So leave in the comments some of the suggestions that you would have for someone if they're in a really tight financial situation, how they can get out of it. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Turn on your post notifications, please, because I post almost every single day. Also, don't forget to like and share the videos. Those 2 things help the channel grow. So I really appreciate you doing that. All right, and until next time, peace.